I mean, how can you forgive the Democratic Party for having Rosa Parks on the back of the bus, but you can't forgive the Republican Party for setting her free? I've yet to get anybody called in, by the way, and answer that. But I mean, every law that perpetuated slavery was written by the party you now have a dying devotion to. But it's simply because there's been such a corruption of historical perspective and misinformation. Like, for instance, under George Bush and Ronald Reagan, the black middle class appreciated the greatest growth in the history of the black middle class apart from the 40s and the 50s. The black middle class shrunk under Bill Clinton, but in the neighborhood, Bill Clinton's the greatest thing that ever happened. The black middle class grew. And because the media doesn't tell the truth, because the school systems don't tell the truth, it would change America, I think, overnight if you just get an honest report on slavery and all that. Just like I said tonight, when you talk about anti-slavery organizations, Ben Franklin was the first president, but they don't tell that. They just, in our community, they have been fed a totally erroneous history, and the liberals, as much as in these colleges, they would perpetuate that ignorance, and they use it to keep my people voting. But the worst thing is they vote against their own faith. They vote against their, which is idolatry. But again, because the pastors have gotten very rich staying on the Democratic side. I say this on my broadcast. You've heard of HUD? Have y'all heard of HUD? The biggest slush fund that's ever been created. I mean, I exaggerate now. There's a pastor in my community that has a church, and sometimes at prayer meeting night, he might have 3 people there. How did this pastor build a $5 million moderate income housing project in Ypsilanti a few years ago? His pastor is a big-time Democrat, and that funneled down this money to build these houses. And the pastor, he gets to manage the $5 million building, which gives him a constant income. So when you talk about, because there is, Phil and myself and some of us who are black conservatives, but more than that, there's Christians who know our history, wonder, how can you just vote against so many things you disbelieve? You know, for instance, the NAACP does not represent the faith of their community. Matter of fact, the NAACP does not represent black folk. They represent the Democratic radical left. But they get paid well for it, millions of dollars. So they sell out their own folks. All right, I want to answer a question that long ago.
I got a question. Right? Many people in here are good with math. Maybe somebody's got a calculator. Pastor mentioned a little while ago that during the Ku Klux Klan, there were 5,000 lynchings, and 1,200 of those were
white people. Fighting for free blacks.
Yeah. Now, we have today a figure that Pastor talked about.
2/3. 1,300 a day.
1,300 a day.
Almost 8,000 a week.
It's not a black or white issue. It's an issue, but 1,300 babies in the black community die a day. A day! 8,000 a week!
Yes.
Anybody do some math over the last 10 years? How does that compare to the Ku Klux Klan?
About 14 million in the last 38 years. 14 on 15 million. And here's again the very party that promotes that. You're a yellow dog Democrat. Y'all know what that means, yellow dog Democrat. You know, it came out years ago and the guy said, I vote for a yellow dog Democrat before I vote for a Republican. Well, but therein lies the tragedy that we have. And it's talk about a conspiracy. It is a conspiracy that, and nowhere, I don't pass a large church now because my conservative views are well known in my community, but there was a time that I did, and I passed a large number of college kids, and that's when I discovered how these college campuses so distort reality. Our church is right down from Eastern Michigan. I mean, we're on Cross Street. Eastern Michigan is on Cross Street. If you ever come there, some of y'all seen the big tower. If you just keep on down that street, you pass our little church there on the park. Eastern Michigan tells black students, don't come down to my church. And because, you know, the famous old Uncle Tom, I always wish they'd have read, you know, Harry Beecher Stowe's classic Uncle Tom, because they really don't mean to call me Uncle Tom. I said, y'all don't want to call me that. I read the book. He was a great man. But, nevertheless. Another question? Yes, sir.
Uh-oh, I'm not supposed to be worried about that.
Pump it up. No?
Okay.
Pump it up.
Can you give us some hope? I mean, any positive? I mean,
One of the things that you have to do, and you most certainly have to be casual and enjoying it, but you know, you're talking to your black friend or your black acquaintance, and you say, man, I have some folks that call my broadcast, and they say, I want my black brothers to listen to your broadcast, but he said, this is the way I approach them. You know, it's this crazy black guy on the radio. He ain't nothing but a Uncle Tom. You ought to turn him on and eat him up, because the guy knows I'm going to give historical fact. And so, you know, you kind of drop on them, you know, which party freed the slaves? Case in point, there was a guy eating me up in a barber shop a few months ago, because, like I said, I'm known, you know, so I'm in there just trying to get my hair cut. I didn't go in there for a fight. But he comes in there, you know, ranting and raising all kind of cane. And so, I because I know my brother and sister so well, I said, wait a minute, because he was going through with the Democrats. I said, who freed the slaves? The Democrats. I said, no, they didn't, brother. Well, he didn't do it then, but the next time I went in there, he left an apology, because he discovered he didn't know the first basic thing about his history. You know, let me mention this book. I didn't bring it in with me, but I've spoken in reference to it. One of the, David Barton, the great historian, Wall Builders. If you go online, wallbuilders.com, and the title of the book is Setting the Record Straight, American History in Black and White. And he has done a tremendous research piece on how the Republican Party and abolitionists fought to free the slaves and who did what. Like, for instance, the 64 civil rights laws would have never passed if 83% of Republicans hadn't voted for it. But in our community, they don't think a Republican voted for it. So George Santana is right. But people who don't know the history are subject to repeat it, you know, and hey, isn't it ironic that the very party that did all the stuff to you that you claim you're mad about, you're madly in love with? And that's because of distortion. So if you can drop historical points on them. I bought a tape about, where's that tape I gave you? I should have bought more, but there is, Margaret Sanger, you know, was a eugenist. And she believed in the fitness of species. And not only she had 6 or 7 folks. I think there was Polish people and black folks and Jewish and a few others. She said, well, human weeds and you had to get rid of them. And, but she did say she had the plan for getting rid of all black folks. And this is a great tape entitled My Alpha. Only bought one, but if you just go on the website and Google myalpha.org, MyAlpha, M-A-A-F-A, and I forgot what the word My Alpha means, and I'm so embarrassed because I'm in this, but